behavior, he'd never crossed that particular line. She gazed out the tall courthouse window during Claudette's wearying recital. Red and blue lights still flashed from the cop cars lining the creek bank 2 blocks away, where an early morning jogger had found a popsicle, the derisive term some cops applied to transients who succumbed to Duck Creek's frigid winters. Claudette thundered her wind-up. "Your Honor, I'd ask that you deny bail to Mr. Belmar, or impose one in a high enough amount that guarantees he'll remain incarcerated until his trial. He's clearly a threat to the community." Julia rose in defense of her hapless frequent flyer. "Your Honor, if this indecent exposure charge is to remain against my client, half this room must face similar charges, given the amount of public urination on the streets that day. My own little boy commented on it." The judge didn't need to know of Calvin's utter delight at the sight. Julia had to grab his hand to stop the 5-year-old from pulling down his pants and attempting to imitate the mighty arcing streams splashing against Duck Creek's storefronts as the high school band marched past, merrily tootling the Rakes of Mallow. Additionally, if I count correctly, some 30 people were arrested on charges of public drunkenness, a dozen for simple assault, and 5 for felony assault, including a couple of sexual assaults. Julia heaved a mournful sigh. She'd learned a little something about theatrics in the brief time she'd shared an office with Claudette. St. Patrick's Day in Duck Creek continues its ignoble tradition. Duck Creek owed its existence to silver mines, which, before they were dug dry, had attracted scores of Irish immigrants, whose descendants, helped by a yearly infusion of students from the university in the next county, celebrated in notoriously uninhibited fashion. In addition to being obviously hungover, several in the room wore visible signs of their weekend revelry in the forms of black eyes, cuts and scrapes, and more than one arm in a sling. Ray himself sported a purple goose egg on his forehead, a swollen jaw, and a bandaged hand. More worrisome, given a recent commitment to sobriety after his brash demonstration of impressive sock length, he'd slumped in his chair, seemingly even more hungover than the others. His skin gray and papery, eyes scary monster red, with an occasional whole-body tremor. "Those Rotary folks kicked the shit out of me before they threw me off their float," he'd said in response to Julia's startled look, a detail intentionally omitted as she pleaded Ray's case. "My client recently completed a 3-month sobriety program," she said, hoping the judge focused on the papers in front of her and not Ray's appearance, which made her fear for the sobriety she was so vigorously touting. "For the first time in years, he has a job, washing dishes in one of our local establishments. By all accounts, he's an excellent employee." By which Julia meant she hadn't heard otherwise. She took a breath and finished her spiel. "Until Saturday, a day on which, I repeat, far worse behavior abounded, he's had no recent encounters with the law. To impose such an outsize and unfair bail and to hold him in jail until this case is resolved would interrupt the tremendous progress he's made. He attends Alcoholics Anonymous meetings 3 times a week and counseling sessions twice a month, and he hasn't missed a single one, nor has he failed any of his regular alcohol and drug tests. I'd ask that he be released on his own recognizance so that he can continue his hard work toward becoming a productive member of society." She sat as Claudette argued a final time for a high bail. "Hey," Ray tugged at her arm, "I need to talk to you. It's important." Juliet didn't dare look at the bench, but sensed the judge's attention. "Okay," she whispered out of the side of her mouth, "as soon as we're done." "No, not here. Someplace where—" He looked around the room. "Not here." She understood. Since his transformation into an approximation of a solid citizen, Ray had styled himself as something of an informant, tipping Julia off to extenuating circumstances that could benefit her clients, many of them his former compatriots in petty crime, although in some cases she'd get a text with a name and a simple warning.